MD and CEO of CMIE, now joins in with the insights on this report. Mr. Vyas, hi, thank you very much for joining in. 1.28 lakh crore, how have you arrived at this figure up to December 30th, and how much of it do you think we've already incurred?
Well, we took a fairly comprehensive but simple approach towards finding out the cost. The objective of this exercise is to find out how much of money is unaccounted in cash form, and so when the currency notes come back to the banking system, if some that does not come out is the unaccounted portion. So what we wanted to find out is what is the transaction cost. That transaction cost obviously needs to be lower than the benefit that we get from this. So we have, in a sense, set an estimate of a lower bar of what the benefits should be. And we went about doing this by finding out what the cost will be to households, to enterprise, to the banking system, and to the government and the RBI. So we took each of these and tried to work out what the transaction cost for them will be.
Mr. Vyas, thank you very much for joining us. Prashant here. And what are the numbers that you've come up with, sir?
So, like you mentioned earlier, it is 1.28 lakh crore or 1.28 trillion. Largest portion of this is paid by the corporate sector because of loss of consumption expenditure. So that's the biggest portion. It turns out to be around 600 and odd billion rupees. And that is because a lot of the cash discretionary expenditure during this 50-day period will be lost. So if you look at the total consumption expenditure of households, and we make an estimate of that through a large household survey that we do, we said let's break up this consumption expenditure into two parts, which is discretionary and non-discretionary, and within discretionary we try to find the cash component of this. And then we say that in this 50-day period, this cash component of the discretionary expenditure will drop by 50%. And that's what leads to this number of 600 billion rupees. That's for the consumption expenditure, which is a hit for the enterprises.
So the total is
Similarly, we did
the total is 1.28 lakh crores, right, sir?
Yes, correct.
So then, I mean,
1.28 lakh crore, correct.
Yes. So then, when you do cost benefit, this is purely in terms of first level numerical analysis. This was worth doing, wouldn't you say? Because I mean, estimates of how much cash will actually get extinguished range from 3 to 5 lakh rupees.
Correct. Yes.
Mr. Vyas?
So I think what will be good.
Go ahead.
What I think will be good is see, we have done a very quick estimation, a very back of the envelope kind of estimation. We have tried to be as comprehensive as possible. We have drawn upon as many of the databases as we could. But I think at the end of this, sometime around March or so, after the 50-day period is over, with enough time given to it, I think it will be fitting for the government to come out with a white paper to say what was the cost actually we bore and what were the benefits we got. I think that's a very elementary thing that needs to be done for a government in judiciously spending money and estimating the benefit of its actions.
What's the worst case scenario when it comes to an impact on GDP? Because right now you're assuming that this is only up till the 30th of December. You don't know whether it's going to spill over into 2017 either. Your sense in terms of the worst case scenario in terms of Q3 GDP as well as the entire FY17?
Well, that's a different exercise. So one needs to find out the impact of this on cost of production, on the production loss, on the employment loss, which is not going to get recovered. So the GDP calculation is a little different. So we have not done that as yet. In fact, that is work in progress to find out what will be the cost on GDP growth, on GDP itself. This cost itself is not as much. I think the cost on GDP will be higher than the cost that we have given out.
Okay. Fair enough. You've also come down to, seeing the impact on the enterprise sector, which also includes the transport sector. We've been talking to a lot of truck associations, plus a lot of, dealers, auto dealers, and they've said that CV sales have completely halted, and there's a severe cash crunch which the entire truck association is facing at this point in time. what's been the on-ground assessment that you've had, and the severe kind of impact, according to you, that especially the logistics segment is facing right now?
Well, the entire demonetization impact is very disrupting. Many segments have faced very difficult times. At the same time, there are some those that have gained out of this enterprise, out of this this event in a big way. So you will hear stories on both sides. Those that are severely affected, they obviously will come out loudly saying that our businesses have been extremely badly hit, and there will be those that will have benefited. I mean, many of them have benefited as well. But nevertheless, I think on a net basis, there is going to be a severe cost that the economy will pay for this move. What is the net basis? One needs to wait to understand these anecdotal evidences that we get from the transport sector and the other sectors as well.
Mr. Vyas, in a way, the 1.28 lakh crores captures demand which has been lost, but we are assuming that this will come back, right? So in a way, it's a first level impact calculation. Now, what does this mean? Whether some of it is lost forever? What does this do to consumer confidence? You know, a lot of supply chains, trade channels, etc. were in cash. Those have been disrupted. How long will it take for those to come back on? So, I mean, actually the cost itself, you said the GDP impact will be higher, and that may reflect the true cost, right, as compared to this 1.82 lakh crores. But it seems obvious that the actual cost would be far higher, maybe in multiples of this.
Yes. This accounting thing that we have done is not the GDP way of looking at things. We are looking at, so for example, people standing in the queues and losing their wages that they could have earned is one thing, whereas the banking cost is actually not so much of a problem. It's only productivity that is lost, because the bankers are paid their wages for the overtime and the overheads. There is no loss of purchasing power over there, whereas the people standing in the queues have actually, one may say, lost their wages. But if they have been paid a small money to stand in the queues to convert somebody's money, then they are making money as well. The recalibration companies who do recalibration for ATMs have probably made money around this time. So the problem is more in the enterprise lost, which is big, which is the largest component of this, because that is people who had to have a cup of tea in the morning with the little cash they had in their pocket and who did not do it. That cup of tea will never be had again. That breakfast that was to be had and people refrain from having that, that will never be had. So the loss actually that I can see from the exercise we have done is only to the extent that the corporate sector has lost output values.
All right, Mr. Vyas, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on, and really appreciate those numbers.